Chile. It's a story of development and discrimination, a story of indigenous injustice. It is a story that only a few people know. It is unknown because the voices that are telling it are being silenced. They are silenced by their own government, a government who has marginalized and suppressed them because of their inferior race, class, and reluctance to assimilate. They are excluded from democratic decision-making and governmental protected rights. They are the indigenous people of Chile. They are the Mapuche. While this is a story that tells of the environmental injustice brought upon the Mapuche people, we must first understand Chile's energy crisis. Historically, Chile has depended on neighboring countries such as Argentina, Ecuador, Brazil, and Colombia, as well as the United States, to meet large portions of their energy needs. However, increasing energy demands at home have left Chile to find its own sources of energy and its own solutions to its rapid urbanization, modernization, and growing mining industry. The Chilean government, along with major energy corporations, is now forced to find alternative sources of energy within Chile. Corporations like Empresa Nacional de Electricidad Suramérica and Colbún have decided to take advantage of the potential hydropower that could be harnessed from the massive rivers in southern Chile.
The Chilean government has created a project using two of Patagonia's largest rivers, the Baker and Pascua. This project would be used to combat Chile's looming energy crisis and to decrease its dependence on energy from other countries. It is called the hidroAysén project. This $4 billion scheme involves the construction of 5 megadams that are estimated to produce about 2.5 megawatts of electricity. The government claims this will boost Chile's power supply by 20%, meeting a third of the country's projected energy needs by 2024.
This project isn't the first time the government has had a hand in Chile's water resources. Although access to water is largely considered a basic human right around the world, in the 1980s the Chilean government handed these rights over to large energy corporations through the Water Code's commodification and privatization of resources. The Water Code enabled large energy companies such as Endesa and Colbún to privatize water as an economic commodity. Today, Endesa controls more than 80% of those water rights. This power that large energy companies hold over water has led to many injustices against the indigenous people in the Patagonia region. The indigenous group called the Mapuche have inhabited Chile since before the Inca Empire. They were the only indigenous people to withstand the initial Incan conquests, show their strength against the Spanish conquerors in the 1500s, and today fight against the Chilean government and large corporations.
Currently, the Mapuche stand strong against the Chilean majority who insist they assimilate into mainstream Chilean culture, as well as a Chilean government who refuses to respect their basic rights. The Mapuche, which translates to people of the earth, are set in their indigenous ways. They still depend on farmlands and access to rivers for fishing in order to survive. Many of their spiritual beliefs are also deeply rooted within these lands. Taking away Mapuche land would destroy their means of survival and eradicate the spiritual value they have placed on it.
Patagonia is just one of those sacred lands. It is pristine, intact, and beautiful. This protected natural land attracts many tourists and backpackers from all over the world, making ecotourism a valuable asset to the country. However, the construction of dams in this area would significantly change that. an estimated 40,000 jobs and $40 million would be lost. And perhaps just as importantly, a priceless and pristine ecosystem will be ruined.
The hidroAysén project includes building transmission lines through Mapuche land in order to transport the energy harnessed from the Baker and Pascua rivers to the Atacama Desert in the north. This is then used to fuel Chile's copper mining industry, the country's most profitable market.
So the dams are bad enough, but they have to put high-tension wires from here 2,300 miles to the north. And the energy is actually for the mines in the north of Chile. So the energy would go from here to Santiago, feed Santiago, while Santiago is actually sending most of the energy to the mines in the north.
Ironically, the benefits from this project only belong to the real Chileans. And according to the government, real Chileans do not include the Mapuche population.
Incorpora distintas culturas y en este caso el reconocimiento de nosotros como pueblo originario y los pueblos originarios en general del país. O sea, no estamos reconocidos en la Constitución y ese es como el mayor problema, porque desde ese punto de vista en adelante al no ser reconocidos significa que no estamos, no somos.
In fact, the government has even put anti-terrorism laws in place to establish their control over the Mapuche and to ensure the completion of the hidroAysén project.
Although the hidroAysén project direly and directly impacts the Mapuche people, they have had little representation in its decision-making process due to their marginalized race and inferior class status. The Indigenous Development Corporation, CONADI, was created in 1993 by the government in order to represent the Mapuche voice in governmental decisions regarding indigenous groups. However, this organization has been very ineffective. They have been ineffective because Mapuche representatives are continually being asked to resign from their positions within the organization, making it almost impossible to participate in governmental project decisions. These positions are thus being filled by elites who undoubtedly disregard the indigenous opinions and interests. This explicit marginalization of the indigenous race makes it hard for the Mapuche to fight back against the powerful elite. In disgust and disgrace over this discrimination against the Mapuche people, many other Chileans, along with non-governmental organizations, have joined the Mapuche movement against the hidroAysén project and the exploitation of indigenous people. This movement has become known as Patagonia Sin Represas, or Patagonia Without Dams. While some protests remain peaceful, others result in violent arrests, injuries, deaths, and increased tensions between the Chilean government and the Mapuche people. Fortunately, there is hope for a brighter future. Chile's diverse geography, from its dry desert in the north to its pristine region in the south, along with the Andes Mountains in the east and the Pacific Ocean in the west, provides potential for many other sources of renewable energy.
These other forms of renewable energy would save sacred lands, avoid the construction of transmission lines through Mapuche territory, and bring justice to the indigenous people of Chile.
In order to do this, CONADI must better represent the true Mapuche voice, and the government must accept the indigenous community as a part of the country's past, present, and future. This means including actual Mapuche representation and involvement in legislative decisions pertaining to their lands.
Chile. It's a story of development and discrimination, a story of indigenous injustice. It is a story that the world needs to know. These indigenous voices must be heard. Let us change the ending to this story. Let this be a story of development and integration of the past and present, of indigenous and environmental justice. Let it remain Patagonia Without Dams.
Kaya